Alright, this is attempt 4 of recording this video with various degrees of actually getting into it. And so, attempt 1, got about 20% in, power went out. Attempt 2, turns out my mic was not properly hooked up. Attempt 3, my mic was again not properly hooked up. This is attempt 4. Thankfully, attempt 3 didn't even get past the intro, so we're just going to jump right into it with March break 2020. And March 2020 was a bad month for, I think, everyone. You know, it was the month when everything hit the fan, splattered against the wall, and just like generally left an unpleasant odor for a couple months, no matter how much we cleaned it. And it was particularly bad for me because this is March break 2020, and I'm starting to feel a little bit of pain in my neck. I'm very young at this point. God, that was like almost 4 years ago at this point. I'm very young, and I don't know what pain in my neck means. So, and we all know super young people overreact to everything. Like, it's an objective fact. And so, my dad thought I was overreacting to this pain, and he was also thinking that at that point in my life, whenever I got sick, I would usually feel some sort of pain symptoms, like, just it's somewhere random in my body. It would just be sore for a little bit, and then regular cold symptoms would start to manifest. And then it would just be regular cold. I'd be pretty sad. Wouldn't really have to miss a day of school. I don't really miss days of school to sickness. And so he didn't think anything of it. My mom was at work at the time, I believe, dealing with this newfangled coronavirus thing that probably wasn't going to take off, but, you know, might be a little bit worrying. It wasn't necessarily dangerous, but it was killing some people and, you know, just generally being unpleasant. And so while she was off dealing with that, we went to our cottage out in the woods, and it's a pretty nice cottage overall. Like, it was built by my grandparents decades ago, and it's still holding up to this day. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, I was not having a good time. Because, obviously, I felt like pure, unadulterated garbage. And the pain in my neck kept getting worse, and I felt like a lump on my neck. And that was pretty bad. But obviously, you're young, you overreact to everything, and your parents know that. And so my dad thought I was overreacting again. And so he did our best to make sure we had a good time, I assume. I don't exactly remember that part of it very well. Game, can you load, please? Thank you so much. And we got home. It was like 9 p.m., which was pretty late. I've never been like a night owl. I enjoy being up late, but I've never been like on that midnight every night craze. It doesn't apply to me. And I was, again, still feeling pretty bad. And it came to the point where my dad was like, all right, I'm gonna show your mother this. And my mom's a nurse, so she had some experience with this kind of stuff. And she saw the lump on my neck, which had grown to the size of not necessarily a baseball, but, you know, getting there. And she immediately decided, all right, we're going to go to the hospital, emergency room now. And so I had to change out of my pajamas because I was about to go to bed and go to the hospital, which is always an amazing experience where nothing bad ever goes wrong. And so we're in the hospital, and the doctors don't know what's up with me. It's just, they got no idea. So they decide to run a test or two. They do some blood work. And this I've gotten blood work done a couple times, and this was my first, though, and I have never had it as bad as how this blood work was. See, what happened this time was the doctors, because I was a child, they thought that I didn't like needles, and pretty correctly, I would say. But I've never exactly been afraid of needles. But blood work does hurt a decent bit for a needle. So they decided to give me a numbing agent because they were so nice. They decided to give me something just to make the needles hurt a little less, you know? And the numbing agent, I'm not sure it worked. The needle still felt pretty bad, but, you know, I was still fine. Problem was, however, turns out I'm allergic to that kind of stuff. Yep. And so, on top of everything that was already happened, there were now 2 giant rashes on the inside of my arms. Doctors were like, "Oh, that's bad," and they gave me an IV. I don't know what it was. It was either to help with the swollen stuff, or it was to help with the rashes. I assume it was help to the swollen stuff because I had to get several IVs later, and that'll actually come up. I can get very mad about that one. And so they gave me the IV, pretty stress-free. Obviously, when you're a kid, and it's like, whoa, my hand is hooked directly to this electronic. That feels pretty weird, honestly. But generally, I was doing alright. Only problem was I couldn't get to bed. I was insanely hungry and super tired. And for some reason, those were preventing me from being able to sleep. Which I think is stupid. I don't know why the human body would make it so you can get too tired to sleep. And so, my mom, who had stuck with me for the time, she chucked on Captain Underpants, and the Captain Underpants movie specifically. We're very sophisticated people, and I watched the entire thing, and it lasted me from like maybe quarter to midnight to like 1:30, and that was when I was finally able to get some sleep. And I woke up pretty early, probably around 6:30. And the doctors had some news, that's for sure. They were like, "Listen, we still have no idea what's going on. The blood work's going to take a couple days. So we're going to send you to the children's hospital." And I'm not going to tell you what children's hospital it is, but it's a pretty famous children's hospital, I'm pretty sure. And it's alright, I guess. They do a lot of work with a lot of different diseases, like I think diabetes and stuff, whatever. And that's where I was to go. And the problem was, that was an hour drive away. So I had to go home. All right, let me think of how to phrase this. I had to go home, got about 2 hours of sleep, and then I packed my bag and we were off to the hospital. The bed was comfier. Oh yeah, let me just mention, I had to sleep on the stretcher of the hospital. Not a hospital bed, which I'm not sure are very comfortable anyways. It is our tax money after all. What do you think? They got infinite money. Anywho, stretchers are very uncomfortable because that's what they keep emergency room patients on while they're waiting to transfer them into long-term care. And that's when they would get the more comfortable beds. And I wasn't going to long-term care because I was leaving the next morning. So I had to spend my night on a hospital stretcher, which obviously feels great. had a blanket that was about as thick as a granola bar wrapper. Like, it wasn't paper thin, but it was pretty damn close. And yeah, it was just generally not a great time. And so, after that brief pause, so I could argue about something, we were off to the hospital. Generally, it was fine. Beds were okay. Here's the problem. COVID was in effect, like full on, all the restrictions in place. And so, I was only allowed to have one visitor, which meant I was only allowed to have one parent, which meant I was not allowed to see my dad for the next 3 days. And, you know, when you're a kid, that sucks ass. I'm telling you, even now, if I was not able to see my dad for 3 days, I would probably go insane. And so I was stuck in this hospital room, COVID restrictions in place. I really wasn't able to do anything. That was the time when I realized that hospitals have a horribly inefficient way of doing things. Like, alright, let's detail this process. So I got there, like, early afternoon. Checked in pretty quickly, honestly. The check-in process was not bad. Afterwards was honestly terrible, though. The food at the children's hospital was very mid. It was fine, but, like, I wouldn't go to a restaurant to eat it. Blood work still hadn't come in yet. Obviously, that would take a couple days. And they decided that they're just going to wait for the blood work. And so I spent another night in there. And then I had to spend another night. And then the second day, okay, day 1, or day 2, I guess, I was hooked up to an IV. And it took like a couple hours to empty the full IV into my body. So I had to just lay in bed there, play Super Smash Bros. I believe I also watched a great deal of YouTube during this time. Again, not important. I ate a plate of fettuccine Alfredo, which was like the only food I had had. I think, all in all, I lost like 4 or 5 kilograms, like 11 to 13 pounds during this whole ordeal. That's a lot when you're a little tiny baby kid. And so day 2, I believe, okay, day 1, I believe I was waiting for an ultrasound. And basically an ultrasound, they rub this weird gel on you, and they just roll something, like along the bumpy part. Ultrasounds aren't just for pregnant people. And looks like we're gonna have to go to another Chimps game here. Alright. Anyway, my point was, ultrasounds just aren't for pregnant women, they're also for miserable 12-year-olds who just kind of want to go home. And the ultrasound was going to have to wait, because I assume there were other people getting the ultrasound. There were other people who needed ultrasounds, possibly more than I did. I was just in pain. There were probably other people that needed to have an ultrasound for, like, pregnancy reasons. Whatever. That's fine. And remember, this is approximately 2 days after my blood work. Still has not come in. I just thought that would be nice to mention. And the blood work, blood work still hasn't come in. And so I go in for my ultrasound, and the results are, results come in pretty quickly from the ultrasound. That was actually kind of nice. Turns out I've got some kind of, like, I believe it's called, I think I had some kind of cellulitis, which basically was like an infection of sorts that caused swelling and pain. And, you know, those were my main symptoms, so I guess it made sense. And the, you know, it was nice to finally have an answer of what was going on. And whoop-de-doo, blood work results come in. I have cellulitis. And so because of cellulitis, they put me on this medication. And this medication, it gave me wicked diarrhea. Like, I hate to go into this kind of detail, but like, I would be waking up at like the middle of the night and just spend an hour on the toilet. And I was in the hospital for this. Not a comfortable time, I tell ya. And so this extremely uncomfortable diarrhea medicine, it was having an effect on my body. And in the morning, nurses saw I was like in a terrible sleepy condition. They asked if I was having any diarrhea-like side effects to the medication that they were giving me. And I was like, yeah, it's giving me some diarrhea-related side effects. And they were like, oh, we have an option that doesn't give literally everyone diarrhea if you like that. You what? So you knowingly gave me the diarrhea medicine. Well, there was a readily available option. Like this didn't need to go through like a special processor maker or whatever. This was just there in the hospital. They had medication that did not give me diarrhea. What kind of logic leads you to give someone the diarrhea medicine over the non-diarrhea medicine? Even now, I'm still, like, pissed about it. And my family doesn't understand it either. So I'm not insane. So, this obviously not a great time. But, you know, we're on the medication that doesn't give me diarrhea. And it's a pill. It's the first time I had actually ever had to swallow a pill in my life. I just always had like a crunchy tablet or some kind of drink or gel because I was never in a condition that required more than just Tylenol. And, you know, it was fine. I was fine. I was taking the pills. Whatever. And so, this guy comes over, doctor, I believe, and he's like, alright, before you leave, we're gonna give you another IV. And you're gonna stay another night, just so we can monitor your condition. And I was like, oh, yeah. So the IV, it's taken, like, multiple hours to get in, right? And I say that to the doctor, and he's like, oh, is it now? And then he says, you know, we have this big syringe we can just put your IV into, and it takes 2 minutes. What? Again, you have an option that makes me considerably less miserable, and it's just there. You choose to give me the less miserable option. No, you choose to give me the more miserable option, and then just reveal to me that it's like, oh yeah, it didn't actually have to be that bad. What? I understand that if it's like something more serious that requires like a more complex IV that needs to go in slower, that's fine. But this wasn't! This could have been done the whole time! What the hell? So obviously, was not pleased again. But this condition, the medication wasn't even the whole thing. I also had to get this. I had to massage my neck and eat sour candies, which was pretty nice. I got to eat sour candies, and it was like, oh no, Mom, it's not because I'm a sugar addict like all the other kids. It's because I'm sick and I need this very much. And so it was nice to get away with that for a while. So there I was. After all of that, things were pretty fine. Honestly, I was taking the pills. I was doing, honestly, kind of alright for myself. Until one day, like, maybe a week after all that, I just could not take the pills anymore. Like, something changed, and it left my mouth just unable to swallow the pills. And the thing about these pills was there was a outer coating that didn't taste like anything, but once that pill was in your mouth long enough, that would melt away, and it tasted like shit. So what I was doing is, I think I got down one more pill after that day, and what I had to do was I had to, like, put the pill in my mouth, try to swallow it try to wash it down with some water. Didn't work. Take the pill again. Tastes like shit. Obviously, tastes like shit, so I gag it up. We're far enough in the video that I just get to scream profanities. Get pissed. Give up. Eventually, we had to call the hospital and get a different liquid pill. Or not liquid pill, like a liquid that would make it less terrible. And I'm not going to fault them on this one, like I have with all the other stuff, because they did ask me if I was able to swallow a pill, and I was like, yeah, I'll give it a shot, and everything was going well. So, that's more on me. I will concede to that. And so, yeah, honestly, after, like, a month and maybe 5 bags of Sour Patch Kids, I was feeling better. And just in time for that to all be ruined by online schooling. Anyway, I will see you guys later. You don't really need to see me beat chimps all the way through. And it is currently 7:25 p.m. and I have not eaten dinner. And I would not like to skip meals. Ever, honestly. It sucks. So yeah. I'll see you later. Bye.
It's been so long since I last have seen my son lost to this monster, to the man behind the slaughter. Since you've been gone, I've been singing this stupid song so I could ponder the sanity of your mother.